Hello students, this is the prose part of your syllabus first year, BA part first year, and there are the 8 stories in the first unit. The first story is The Refugee, which is written by Paul S. Buck. Paul S. Buck, a well-known writer for short stories, was born in Paul Sidney Buck. This is the name of the writer, Paul Sidney Buck. She was born in 26 June 1892 on Hillsborough, West Virginia, US. And he was died in March 6, 1973, aged at 80, Denby, Vermont, US. The occupation of the writer is as a writer and a teacher. Nationality, she was American, and there are two important awards which was given to her. First is in 1932 Pulitzer Prize and Nobel Prize in Literature in 1938. This is a short introduction of the writer. Pearl S. Buck. Pearl S. Buck Buck. She was born in 26 June 1892 and died in March 6, 1973. Was an American writer and a novelist. As the daughter of missionaries, Buck spent most of her life before 1934 in China, and in starting, she wrote many stories on the background of China, and the story and the characters are of China. Her novel, The Good Earth, was the best-selling fiction book in the US in 1931 and in 1932, and won the Pulitzer Prize in 1932. And in 1938, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for her rich and truly epic description of peasant life in China and for her biographical masterpieces. So, as we know that her childhood was spent on the China, so she used the Chinese background on his story, and most of his stories has the biographical backgrounds. And she won the Nobel Prize in 1938 for his stories and for her rich and truly epic description of peasant life in China. This is the important theme of her stories, and she got the Nobel Prize for this background. Buck, who was an American basically, but his father is a missionary. So her father is a missionary, so he went here and there, and she also went with him. And as we know that in 1938, he was awarded Nobel Prize in Literature. Summary of the story. This is the first story. As we know, there was an old man, too old for the heavy burden he is carrying. Is the last of the occupation processions. He can hardly keep with the others. When he can no longer go on his side, sit down near a stand selling his noodles. A man passing by takes pity on him and offer him some coins, although he himself does not know where his next meal is to come from. This is the pathetic condition of a refugee person. As we know, when two nations fight for the freedom or fight for the occupation of the land, for money, for the area, many villages and cities and towns are disturbed by the fight. This is the background of this story. Refugee who were refused by both the countries or a country. As we know, in 1947, when India is divided in two parts, Pakistan and Hindustan, many of the refugees came to India and many had gone to the Pakistan, and their conditions are very pathetic at that time. Today, we would know about these persons by the literature as Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan and many other stories about the partition. In this story, we see that there is an old man who was a very poor person, and there is nothing is possession of him, and he hardly keep with the others. When he can no longer go on, he sit down near a stand selling his hot noodles. A man passing takes pity on him and offer him some coins, although he himself does not know where his next meal is to come from. So that we know that there are good persons and bad persons all over the world, and there is a person who gave him a coin to spend for his food. Now look at the second part of the story. The old man is reluctant to take the money, and he does not want to be thought a beggar, and so explain the situation. And he says that his people had good land, but that the river rose and that had no food left. There was destruction after the flood. No one get any food at anywhere, but that the river rose and they had no food left. In desperation, they even ate the seed which had been bought for planting the land. What a pathetic condition of the peasants of China. There is no seeds because people eat all the seeds to satisfy their apathy to their belly. And there is nothing to eat was left in that country. And he takes pains to defend his people. And he is very sad because he could not defend his people, saying that they were too hungry and too inexperienced to think of the future, although he warned them not to eat the seed. He told them, he told the peasants that we should not eat the seed, because if we eat the seed, what will be our future? What will our going the usurpers, or can be said the successor of the society or the upcoming children, what will they eat when the seed is not in existence? But nobody give the attention to his words. The passerby drops a silver coin and a copper penny into the old man's apron and goes on his way. Many people show the kindness and generous to the old man, and a person gave him a silver coin and a copper penny into the old man's apron and goes on his way. To the noodle vendor's surprise, the old man does not spend all the money on food. This shows that how wise the old man. But only the copper coin. He spent only the copper coin for the food, and he gives the noodles to his small grandson. It is not he who eat the noodles. He gave it to the small grandson, whom he is carrying in one of his baskets. This shows that the old man is very kind in his behavior. The boy's mother and father had died in the floods, and the old man is now looking after the child. And he himself only eats the few scraps left by the boy. Then he hands the bowl back to the astonished vendor, who cannot understand why a starving man with a silver coin does not buy any more food for himself. It is a great surprise for the noodle vendor. He thought that the old man would buy the noodles for himself also, but it is a big surprise for him that he spent only a copper coin and reserve, or can we say save the silver coin for the future of the child. Then we see the old man explain that the rest of the money is for seed. He will buy the seed and then he will sow it on the field. And he says that the best thing he can do for his grandson is to buy seed to ensure against more starvation the following year. This is the message of this story. He wants to say that he should not spend all the money. He will buy the seed for the grandson, and then the grandson make it sow in the field, and then he gain the grain, and there will be the prosperity in the future of the grandson. So this is the future prediction of the person. The flooding of the river has forced the farmer of an unnamed country to leave their homelands and look for food and shelter in the capital a few hundred miles away. They have to go here and there in search of food and in search of work. The city is full of ragged and starving refugees. There are only ragged and starving refugees. Only the persons who are hungry The persons are ragged with the torn clothes and etc. And nobody really knows how to cope with the problem. There is a big problem of starving. There is a big problem of lack of the clothes. There is a big problem, the lack of the place, but nobody knows what is the solution of this problem. They have to live in great camps outside the city walls, trying to find work and food. This is a pathetic condition of every refugee because he was or they were not accepted. They are not accepted by any of the country. They are the refugee. They are the refuse. They are the wastage of a country, so nobody accepts them. And the situation is causing a lot of bitterness among the local inhabitants because the local people who are disturbed by them, the local people thought the food of the local society will be captured by the refugees. So they also became bitter. One day, some new refugees arrive, and they are different from the others in that they are not riff-raff from some community always poor and easily starving in flood time. They are all from the same region and are well built, neatly and cleanly dressed, and obviously take pride in themselves despite their hopeless situation. There are, however, no young girls and no infants, which suggests that they must have perished during the floods while still working in the fields, all of them carrying bedding and cauldrons. Though there is no trace of food in any of them, the lack of food shows in their faces and in their apathy toward the things around them. This is the condition of every part of society because there is no food. There is only and only floods and floods everywhere. There is only the hunger is everywhere. Now we can see that the condition, the bad conditions would only not capture not only the poor person but also the well established persons in the society. This shows that the problems are followed by not only by the poor person but also by the rich persons. So this is the story of the refugees. And now the second story, which is written by C. Rajgopalachari, the first Indian Governor General of India, and the story is the Noj Jewel. C. Rajgopalachari, who is a lovely, called lovely, he is called Rajaji, and Chakravarti Rajgopalachari. Many of the leaders call him Rajaji because he is the first Indian Governor General of India. C. Rajgopalachari, who is famous for his short stories, was born in 21st June. He took the Governor General's office in 21st June 1948 and till 26 January 1950. And when he got the seat of Indian Governor General, their monarch of India is George VI, and the Prime Minister of India is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and proceeded by the Earl Mountbatten of Burma, and succeeded by position abolished, because the position is abolished. Chief Minister of Madras, he was the Chief Minister in office 10 April 1952 to 13 April 1954 for one year. He was the governor of Sri Praksha and proceeded by P.S. Kamswami Raja, succeeded by K. Kamraj. He was made the Minister of Home Affairs in office 26 December 1950 to 25th October 1951. This is the political career of C. Rajgopalachari. Chakrabarti Rajgopalachari, who was born in 10 December 1878 to 25 December 1972, informally called Rajaji or CR, was an Indian lawyer, independence activist and politician, writer and statesman. These are the quality, these are the occupations which was done by Rajgopalachari. Rajgopalachari was the last Governor General of India. He was the first Indian Governor General and the last Indian Governor General of India. He also served as leader of the Indian National Congress, Prime Member of the Madras Presidency, Governor of West Bengal, Minister for Home Affairs of Indian Union and Chief Minister of Madras State. These are the works which was done by him. But in the literature, he gave a great contribution by his short stories. His short stories are very much popular in olden India and till now. Rajgopalachari founded the Swatantra Party and was one of the first recipient of India's highest civilian award, the Bharat Ratna. He vehemently opposed the use of nuclear weapons and was a proponent of world peace and disarmament. During his lifetime, he also acquired the nickname Mango of Salem. This is the introduction of C. Rajgopalachari. Rajgopalachari was an accomplished writer who made lasting contribution to Indian English literature, and he is very famous for his short stories and very short stories, and is also credited with composition of the song Korai Ornam Ilyas set to Carnatic music. He pioneered temperance and the temple entry movement in India and advocate Dalit upliftment. Dalit is a big problem for India because Dalits are pressed by the upper classes and they are banned to enter into the temple, but Sri Rajgopalachari worked for them and managed for them to enter into the temple without any hesitation. He has been criticized for introducing the compulsory study of Hindi and the controversial Madras scheme of elementary education in Madras state. He was criticized because he is in the side of Hindi and he want to make Hindi the national language. And this is the controversial for Madras scheme of elementary education in Madras state. So we can say that he is the perfect leader of India. Now the theme of the story. This is a simple and a little story just like the Panchtantra's story, because the leading character of this story are the sparrows. There are two sparrows, male and female. This is a moral story and it gives a message through two sparrows. There is a man, Ramaya, whose wife disobeyed him. The male sparrow drops a jewel on the floor of Ramaya's house because Ramaya's wife is very bitter in his behavior and always quarrel with his husband. So the male sparrow cannot bear it, and then he planned a plot and he placed a jewel in the floor of Ramaya's floor. The male sparrow drops a jewel on the floor of Ramaya's house and Ramaya's wife takes the diamond jewel illegally. She didn't inform about it to her husband or didn't inform it about the police or the courtiers of the king's court. Then the maid servant of Mr. Ramnatham Kapaiya was suspected by everyone for the loss of the jewel, the diamond jewel, because the maid servant works at the house, at the home of Mr. Ramnatham Kapaiya, and she was suspected for the thief, as a thief. Ramaya's wife gets a serious fever because she is afraid if the person know about the jewel, she will be killed. So she became very seriously ill, and the male sparrow pleased when it see the situation of the wife of Ramaya. He said that a guilty person always have a doubt in his corner. Moral of this story is, this is bound to happen when a woman is obstinate and disobey her husband. This story gives us a message that every woman, every wife should respect his husband, her husband, because husband is the leader of the house. So this is a short story with a short message, and Mr. C. Rajgopalachari gives a short message through a story of some sparrows and some persons. This is very similar to the Panchtantra. Panchtantra is written by Vishnu Sharma. Panchtantra is the mostly read storybook, or can be said short story book all around the world. It was translated in many foreign languages, and there are 5 parts in that book. Panchtantra means 5 parts of the stories, and all the characters are animals and birds and the river creatures. So we can say C. Rajagopalachari became very successful in his storytelling. The language of the story is very simple and the message is directly hit to our heart. And at last, I can say that C. Rajagopalachari is a great writer of short stories. Now, this is the third story which was written by Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh is a very well known personality. He is a high profile writer in India. Lately, he was died in the last year, and I can say that he is the most readable character, most readable writer in the present India. The interview is a short story of some Negro persons. Now, this is the short introduction of Khushwant Singh. Born. Khushwant Singh was born in 2 February 1915 at Hadali in British India, now in Khusaib district, Punjab, Pakistan. He was died in 20 March 2014, aged 99, New Delhi, India. This is only 10 months ago. Occupation. He was journalist by his occupation as a first, and then the writer, and then the historian. Most of his books are based on the historical events, as in 1947, the partition train to Pakistan, and in 1984, which was a historical event when the Indira Gandhi was murdered by some Sikh bodyguards. Nationality, he was Indian, but he was born in the British India. Now the place is in Punjab, Pakistan, but he is an Indian. Alma mater, St. Stephen's College, Delhi, King's College, London. He was educated there, and he was a great journalist and a great writer of high profile characters and a great historian also. Most of his stories are based on the background of political background, as on the 1947 partition and in 1984 the Sikh movement and etc. Khushwant Singh was an Indian novelist and a lawyer, politician and journalist, and Indo-Anglian writer. Singh was best known for his trenchant secularism, his humor and abiding love of poetry, his comparison of social and behavioral characteristics of Westerns and the Indians are laced with acid wit. One of his famous story is My Grandmother's Portrait, a grandmother of a lady, and this is dedicated to his grandmother. This is a very beautiful picturization of his grandmother into very widely. He served as the editor of several literary and news magazines as the Hindustan Times, and as well as 2 newspapers, though in 1970 and 1980s. Though he was the recipient of Padma Vibhushan, the second highest civilian award in India. The first civilian award in India is Bharat Ratna, and then the second is Padma Vibhushan, and third is Padma Bhushan, and fourth is Padma Shri. And he got the second highest civilian award in India. The interview. It is a short story about a short interview. The interview is an amusing story told with Singh's usual effervescent humor. In most of his stories, we find the ilk of humor. He wrote with a humor touch in every story. The narrator unexpectedly finds himself in an embarrassing situation when an American numismatician drops in on him. He does not know what numismatics is. All the same, he keeps the conversation with Mr. Towers going while desperately trying to find out what the word means. He does not know. And in the complete interview, he wants to know what is the meaning of the numismatics. This is a short story about his original experience, and in his most of his stories he uses his autobiographical background. Love, Malice, and a Little Malice. Love, Woman, and Little Malice is his autobiographical work of Mr. Khushwant Singh, and 1984 is also based on his personal view. And the first novel of his, the writer is Train to Pakistan, which belonged to the partition time in 1947. Now, the last and the final story of today is Miracle. Miracle is written by Kartar Singh Duggal. Kartar Singh Duggal, who was born in 1st March in 1917 at Damal, Rawalpindi district, British India. Rawalpindi, which this village is now established in the Pakistan now, but and he died in 26 January 2012, aged 94. And language, the two languages are used by the writer. First is Punjabi and then the English. And he was, as the nationality, he was an Indian. Kartar Singh Duggal, who was born in 1st March in 1917, was an Indian writer who wrote in Punjabi, Urdu, Hindi, and English. These are the four languages used by the writer in his work. His works include short stories, novels, dramas, and plays. His works have been translated into Indian and foreign languages. He has served as director All India Radio, and he was awarded the Padam Bhushan as the Khushwant Singh. Padam Bhushan, this is the third highest award of India. As we know, the first is Bharat Ratna, second is Padma Vibhushan, and third is Padam Bhushan, and fourth is Padma Shri. The third highest award is given to the writer by Government of India in 1988. In 2007, he was awarded the Sahitya Akademi Fellowship Award, the highest honor given by Sahitya Academy, India's National Academy of Letters or Literatures. Work. Duggal has authored 24 collection of short stories. This is a big series of short stories and 10 novels, 7 plays, and 7 work of literary criticism, and 2 poetry collections and an autobiography. Many of his books have been adopted by various universities for graduate studies. Among his works are Miracle. Miracle is a short story about a miracle. By contrasting the miracle of Guru's palm with the incidents of the 1920s, Duggal is able to question the power of faith in accomplish everything. An otherwise innocent tale suddenly lights up with the intrusion of reality. There are the 2 stories in this story. First story is about Guru Nanak and his disciple, and the second story is related to 1920s incident with the Parsons and the British rulers. Guru Nanak, who was going with his disciple, they became very thirsty at a place, and the disciple has to go on the order of the Guru to a mountain, and there he found that there is a water, but the Darvish denied to give the water. He refused to give the water to the disciple because the Guru doesn't believe in the Islam. So the disciple came back, and the Guru ordered him to go back to take the water, and this happens 3 times. At last, when the Darvish refused every time, the Guru Nanak ordered his disciple to remove a rock from the place, and then there was a splash of the water from the place, and all the water of the Darvish well is vanished. Now, the writer, the Duggal, asked his mother that how can a person can remove the rock from the place, and then the mother of the writer said that when 20 or 30% can stop a train, how can they stop a train? But they stopped in the time of British India, so why can't a person remove a stone or can stop a stone with his power? So this is the power of faith which was given, which was told by the Guru Nanak in this story. This is a miracle because Guru stopped a big rock with the power of his palm, and this stone is established till now in that village, and the village is known as the Palm Village, the Guru Palm Village, and there is a railway station also near it. So these are the 4 stories in your syllabus, and in next class we will read about next 4 stories. Have a good day.